are there other changes that you're seeing with the adoption of bringing AI in as thought partners for the company?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. I would say I'd start though with um, a foundational piece we had was we have a set of operating principles. You can call them some people call them culture, values, beliefs. We call them operating principles at Section. So we have a set of operating principles, 7 of them, which lend themselves to AI, meaning some of those operating principles are things like think high low or experiment relentlessly or data first.
What's the high low one? I'm curious about that.
High low is how I think anyone who works in a startup, frankly, anyone working in any company, I think this is one of the most valuable skills or abilities. You got to think high and work low at the same time, and you have to be able to switch between those two contexts, kind of on a dime or immediately. Like I want junior people, to be able to think high. I want smart people that can stop for a moment, not just think about the task in front of them, but they need to, but also just extend that timeline 6, 12 months. That's thinking high. Right? Thinking high is a longer timeline. Thinking high is what else could happen if, right? Unintended consequences, stuff like that, right? And then low is like doing the grunt work, right? And I want executives to, they all think they want to think, they all think they're good at thinking high. And I assume most of them are. I want them to work
Hopefully.
low. We're a startup. So yeah, you can figure out the go-to-market strategy, but then you got to write the press release, right, or edit the press release, or whatever it is, right? So when you think about those operating principles, and so I'd say first, take a step back as a leader and look at your operating principles or your cultural values as they are today. And I don't mean values like we respect others or they're fine, they're undifferentiated, and don't get me started about values. But I think operating principles, whether they're written down or not, you have a way of working at your organization. And do those, as they are today, support the introduction of an intelligence service, of an AI thought partner? Hopefully they do. And if not, you might want to adjust even some of your operating principles to make sure that they're kind of inclusive of people working with AI. So that's kind of, I think, a first step. And then it is making these cultural changes, basically the change management kind of, tips and tricks that you need to do. You need to find early adopters. At Section, it was me. And for 6 months, and let's be clear. So for this first 6 months, this is a year and a half ago now, 18 months ago, I was the AI guy. And I got into AI because I'm old and I realized I needed a cognitive edge. And so when I started playing with 3.5 and then obviously 4, really like, whoa, I'm like, okay, this is going to be I want to keep working for 10 more years, right? Call me crazy, but I like doing this. So I thought, okay, AI is going to be a way I can keep working. I work in Silicon Valley. I'm 63. I'm going to be working when I'm 70. I need a way to kind of keep my edge. And I thought AI is going to help me. But for the first 6 months, no one else at Section was interested, quite frankly.
What do you ascribe that difference in approach to it? Because you mentioned earlier, many people look at AI and almost feel, okay, this could replace me. You look at it and say, oh, this is a way I can be competitive and get an edge on competition.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's a matter of perspective. I'm old. I'm gonna get replaced. Like I live and work in the most ageist place, or one of the most ageist, kind of work environments, in America or in the world, Silicon Valley. You apparently have to be 26 and wearing a hoodie, and a baseball cap to be smart. So yeah, like my perspective was, they're pushing me out anyway. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it could only upside for me, right? Yeah, the board could fire me, and that's happened to me before. But my team can, not really, right? But for most of us, again, as I said earlier, right, there's a lot of anxiety around our jobs combined with I've never worked this way. What is this? And there's a third thing going on, which is I'm really good at this. And when I go play with AI, it's not very good at what I'm very good at. And I'm really pretty intolerant at this point, when people say that. Like, I'm a great writer and AI can't help me write. Well, no shit. You're a great writer. Like, why are you trying to use AI? Why are you trying to be like, is AI supposed to impress you as a great writer because you're a great writer? No, I don't think so. Right. But he's not a very good writer. And his investment memo or his deck or his whatever could be better. And so he's the one should be using AI, or she's just starting out in her programming career, and so Cursor or GitHub Copilot's going to help her. That's great. She'll accelerate faster, and maybe get your job, right? Because you don't want to use AI kind of thing. So yeah, I think that a lot of people come at AI also from the wrong perspective, which is, oh, it's not as good as me at what I do really well. We all have strong muscles. We all have really well developed muscles, and likely AI today is not going to help that muscle as much, right? We all have underdeveloped or weak muscles. That's where we should think about our thought partner, right? Our AI is, where's my muscle weak, right? We all have biases. AI has no biases. It has some biases for sure in the training data, but in terms of making business decisions, right? AI doesn't have a lot of bias, really, right? It doesn't really have blind spots. AI doesn't forget about things. You have to prompt it well, and so you are steering, but you really, as a thought partner, as in a kind of a co-intelligence, uh, AI is pretty powerful. And so anyway, that's a little bit around. You got to break that stuff down early, and then get people to find their moment of aha. And the aha is either some really cool demo. That's the notebook LM demo, right? Everybody's going crazy about that. Yeah, that is like, whoa, right? But more likely it's some little task or some decision where the employee is struggling or could use a little help, and they get an assist from AI. Doesn't have to be a huge assist. Can be a small one, because you get it so time efficiently. Once you've gone up the learning curve, right, and you know how to actually work with your AI, you're going to get that assist pretty time efficiently, right, with not much friction. That's when I think people, kind of change their perspective and go, okay, yeah, this thing could help me. And again, a 5 or 10% gain in a year, that should be enough for CFOs. Listen, we'll see if that turns into time. Does time savings turn into productivity gains? Do productivity gains turn into business outcomes? We're a long way from ever having that data, right? And so I'm mostly sympathetic with CFOs in large organizations who say, I've got 20,000 employees. This AI bill is $5 million. So that's not nothing, right? I got something else, some other project has to be canceled, or they have to go cancel a bunch of SaaS contracts out of my budget to pay for the 5 million to put an LM into everybody's hands, right? And by the way, time savings doesn't always equal productivity gains. We know that. Email is supposed to save us a bunch of time, and now we spend a ton of time, trying to get to zero inbox. So I just think that it's fair to say, in larger organizations, it's going to take a while to actually get definitive kind of data. Intuitively, it makes sense to all of us, I think, if you use AI, that yeah, there's certainly time savings here. They should be converted into productivity gains, and that should end up with business outcomes that are good. In a startup, I think it's clear. I've told my board we're going to get a 20% across the company productivity gain within 12 months, if not
How are
more.
you going to measure that? How are you going to track that,
Yeah,
KPI that, et
yeah,
cetera?
yeah. I knew you were going to ask. Great question. And by the way, our board asked. That was the first question one of our board members asked, and he's like a legit world class board member on several kind of Fortune 500 boards. He's like, okay, Greg, I'd buy that, but like, how are you going to measure that? It's hard, honestly. I'd say a combination of employee surveys. We're just going to ask employees. Surveys could be either a survey or it's just, hey, let's talk to employees anecdotally, kind of thing. That's one. And the way we ask that is, what other tasks are you now doing that you weren't doing before? You can ask people, are you saving time? They're going to say yes, right? But what's the evidence of you saving time? Well, I get to walk the dog more. That's evidence. They may not want to tell you that, right? But if you can be more efficient and get another hour to go walk your dog, okay, maybe not what I wanted, since I'm paying for the AI, but that is an outcome that's going to happen, right, for some people. But the other is
Yeah.
going to be, oh, I'm now doing this. I don't use that contractor anymore, or I'm taking on part of that role, and that other guy is giving me that work, and now he's doing something else, right? You can see work shift between the teams, likely because bandwidth is opening up. That's one way, right? You can look at just hiring, and so we intend to do that. Meaning, how much work are we doing at the end of this year? We know how many courses we ran, we know how many students we served, we know how many enterprise customers we closed. Like, we have our metrics in terms of how the business is operating, and we can just look at the headcount. So
Output per headcount, so
yeah, something
courses
like
done
that, or
per,
just
yeah.
and also kind of that feeling part. Are we feeling like we're at the edge of burned out and working too hard, which is often how we feel at Section, which is the life of a startup, certainly early stage startup? Or are we feeling like, no, we're not always like about to go underwater in terms of, kind of the workload. And if that's happening, that means either I've got too much staff, or AI is probably helping.
If you enjoyed that clip, there is much more of that conversation. Make sure to check out the full interview where we get into so much more. And if it was helpful, click the like and subscribe button. If not, no worries. Hopefully, I'll convince you next time. I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy wherever you are.